This HOA treasurer parked her $60,000 BMW in my garage without asking, then fined me $200 for leaving my garage door open overnight. I drag myself home after a 12-hour electrical shift, and there's her pearl white luxury SUV dead center where my tools belong. When I ask her to move, she waves fake emergency parking rules. 6 weeks later, I owned her house and she was sobbing into my voicemail, begging me not to foreclose. I'm Jake Morrison, 34-year-old electrician, single dad to 8-year-old Emma. 6 years of saving every overtime penny for a 3-bedroom with a 2-car garage I could turn into my workshop. That garage was my sanctuary. My grandfather's weathered workbench, tools that built America, space to create Emma's treehouse. Willowbrook looked perfect. Middle-class homes, 180 monthly HOA. Simple rules. Then I met Brenda Whitfield and learned that simple was never part of her vocabulary. Brenda's 52, drives that BMW like a weapon, lives in the corner McMansion. HOA treasurer, which translates to supreme dictator. Her husband Brad works city planning, a fact she weaponizes constantly. Always perfectly coiffed, designer everything with a smile that could freeze lava. Over 18 months, she transformed suburban watchdogging into performance art. Dawn patrol with her violation notebook documenting infractions. Mrs. Chin got cited for aesthetically inappropriate decorations. Her late veteran husband's memorial wind chimes. Tom Rodriguez faced fines for parking his work truck because commercial vehicles degrade residential character. I flew under her radar mostly. But that Tuesday evening, I discovered Brenda had decided my garage was community property. I pulled into my driveway at 7:30 after installing emergency backup power. Instead of relaxing, I found Brenda's BMW parked dead center in my garage. Not partially blocking, dead center with maybe 6 inches clearance. The smell of leather mixed with my motor oil. I walked to my front door where Brenda sat in my patio chair, scrolling through her phone. "Excuse me, but there's a car in my garage." She looked up with that practice smile. "Oh Jake, my driveway is being sealed tomorrow. Emergency situation." The HOA emergency parking clause allows temporary use of available spaces. I scrolled through the HOA documents. "Ma'am, I don't see any emergency parking clause. I'm currently reviewing the bylaws for necessary updates. Consider this a pilot program for community cooperation." Instead of exploding, I pulled out my phone and started recording. "So to be clear, you're admitting this clause doesn't actually exist yet, and you're using my private garage without permission?" Her face went from smug to panicked. "You can't record me without consent." "Actually, I can. We're on my property, and this is a one-party consent state." She tried to grab my phone. "Brad will hear about this." "Good. I'd love to hear city planning's official position on fake HOA clauses." Next morning, an HOA violation notice. Garage left open overnight. Fine, $75, escalating to $200. Handwritten note. "Maybe next time you'll be more cooperative." B. I called my buddy Derek, real estate attorney. "Jake," Derek laughed, "she's literally fining you for the violation she caused. That's evidence of harassment." What's my next move? Research time. HOA formation documents are public record. Find out what authority they actually have. During lunch, I drove to the county courthouse. What I found made me smile. Meanwhile, Brenda emailed the entire neighborhood, "Urgent. Resident violation creating security concerns due to unsecured garage overnight." Friday morning hit me with new audacity. Not only was her BMW still there, but she'd brought a friend, a black Mercedes. I found my electrical supply cabinet, $3,000 worth of equipment, pushed against the wall with a new padlock. Sticky note on my grandfather's vice. Temporary relocation for client staging. Community cooperation appreciated. BW. I called the non-emergency police line. "I'd like to report trespassing and possible theft." Officer Martinez arrived 20 minutes later. After documenting everything, he said, "Sir, this looks like harassment. Mind if I have a word with the vehicle owner?" Watching Brenda try to explain to a cop why she had the right to lock up someone else's tools was masterclass. "Ma'am," he finally said, "property deed trumps HOA agreement. You might want to remove your vehicles before this becomes criminal." That afternoon, I drove to the county surveyor's office. The clerk pulled up my lot survey. "Oh honey, you own 18 inches more toward the street than your HOA thinks. Your garage is completely on your own property. The original developer had sold me clear title, but the HOA used an outdated preliminary survey that was legally worthless. By Saturday, Brenda called an emergency board meeting for Monday. She also launched a Facebook campaign that backfired spectacularly. Mrs. Chen commented with detailed accounts of harassment. Tom Rodriguez shared photos of bogus violation notices. Sarah Mitchell posted screenshots of actual bylaws, proving most of Brenda's rules existed only in her imagination. Monday evening, I walked into the meeting to find only 3 people. Brenda sat center wearing a navy blazer. Flanking her were Harold, who nodded at everything, and Patricia, professionally trained to purse her lips. Where's everyone else? The other board members couldn't make it. But we have a quorum. First order of business, she announced, motion to clarify parking enforcement. She slid over 3 pages of legal-sounding nonsense. Retroactive fines for unauthorized garage usage, dating back 60 days, $800. You're trying to fine me $800 for how I use my own garage? I'd like to see the HOA incorporation documents and your insurance policy covering these enforcement powers. The silence was thick. Brenda's smile faltered. Those documents are being reviewed by our legal counsel. No problem. I've got copies from the county filing office. I spread out the documents. Brenda went from confident pink to worried pale. According to your insurance policy, the HOA excludes coverage for board members' personal business activities, like using community resources for real estate staging. Furthermore, I've documented $23,000 in financial discrepancies. The pattern was beautiful. Storm cleanup billed to the HOA but performed by city crews for free. Landscape consultations charged to community funds but done through Brenda's private company. But here's what I hadn't expected. I pulled out one final document. Mrs. Whitfield, did you know your husband's city planning emails are subject to public records requests? Color drained from her face. I read from Brad's official email, problem properties requiring community pressure to improve neighborhood composition. Target working-class homeowners for maximum leverage. Harold's mouth fell open. Patricia gasped. There's more. Wife staging business needs 3-month access cycles. Recommend escalating HOA pressure on Morrison property for optimal client presentation timeline. This meeting is over, Brenda said, standing so fast her chair fell backward. Next morning brought a phone call that changed everything. Jake, you need to sit down, Derek said. He'd been running Brenda's real estate license through the state database. First, Brenda's license has 2 pending complaints for misrepresentation. Elderly clients claiming she manipulated them into selling below market value. Second, she owes $180 more on her mortgage than her house is worth. Third, Brad's city position is under ethics review for undisclosed conflicts of interest. Someone filed a complaint with the state attorney general about systematic corruption in municipal planning departments working with HOA boards to manipulate property values. The investigation's been running 6 months. Brad's email trail was the evidence they needed. Derek, are you saying they're part of an organized scheme? I'm telling you, your garage situation just became Exhibit A in a federal fraud investigation. Brenda wasn't just power-hungry. She was running a sophisticated property manipulation scheme, using her HOA position to identify targets, creating violation pressure to force quick sales below market value, then flipping properties through her business. How many other homeowners? At least 12 in your neighborhood. Probably dozens across the county. Derek explained the scheme. Brad would identify properties ripe for development. Brenda would manufacture violations to pressure those homeowners into selling. Their inside knowledge of zoning changes made them incredibly effective. Mrs. Chen's memorial wind chimes were an excuse to pressure an elderly widow into selling 6 months before the city announced plans for a new community center that would boost values by 30%. My garage wasn't just convenient parking. My corner lot would become extremely valuable when the new shopping center got approved next spring. Derek's revelation changed everything. This was organized crime disguised as suburban governance. I assembled Team Justice. Mrs. Chen had been keeping records since Brenda showed up. I was hoping someone would eventually ask. She returned with a shoebox full of documentation. Every violation notice, every threatening call, all dated and time-stamped. Military training. My late husband taught me that documentation beats confrontation. Tom Rodriguez had background in military intelligence. He'd been quietly mapping Brenda's patrol patterns, recording her violation schedule. "Brother, I've been waiting for this conversation." Sarah Mitchell ran the neighborhood Facebook group like an intelligence operation. Every complaint about Brenda, every suspicious activity, all cross-referenced and categorized. Derek arrived with legal strategy. "We're going to let Brenda continue digging her own hole while building an airtight case. But the real masterstroke, we're going to use your vacation time." I stared at him. Narcissistic personalities like Brenda need constant control. They can't handle situations they can't manipulate. What happens if you just disappear for a couple weeks? The plan was simple. I'd go camping with Emma, completely off the grid. Meanwhile, Tom would house sit and document everything Brenda did. "Without you there to react to," Derek explained, "she'll have to show her true colors." Narcissists can't help themselves when they think they're winning. Day 3 of Yellowstone, my satellite communicator bust. "She's lost her mind. Call when you can get signal." Tom answered immediately. "Jake, this woman is unhinged. Day 1 she tried to get into your garage at 6 a.m. with a crowbar. Day 2 she called a locksmith claiming HOA emergency. He took one look and left. Day 3, today, she brought a city electrical inspector claiming dangerous wiring. The inspector asked for the complaint number. When she couldn't provide one, he asked who reported the hazard. When she said she did, he asked for her electrical license number. He told her filing false electrical emergency reports was a misdemeanor, then left. But last night around midnight, she tried to jimmy your garage lock with what looked like a butter knife. I got her on camera attempting breaking and entering while explaining to a Marine veteran how community safety works." Tom filed a police report. Officer Martinez recommended Brenda speak with a lawyer. She posted on Facebook at 2 a.m. Sarah screenshot everything before she could delete it. "The neighbors are turning against her." Mrs. Patterson commented that maybe people who break into garages at midnight aren't the best judges of community safety. Got 47 likes. Derek called with updates. The State Real Estate Board fast-tracked their investigation. Brad's position was under active review. The Attorney General was very interested in Brad's emails. "One more thing. She tried to bribe me yesterday. $500 cash to let her into your garage. I told her those materials looked like your electrical tools." Tom had recorded everything, including Brenda's exact words about making my city permit applications much easier if we cooperate. Day 9, another urgent message. "Emergency. Brenda hired someone to break in. Police involved." Sarah answered immediately. "She's completely lost it. Yesterday she approached Tom with a briefcase full of cash. Today she hired the world's worst burglar. Around 2 p.m., Tom spotted some guy with bolt cutters trying to cut your garage lock. When Tom confronted him, the guy claimed to be a licensed contractor working for the HOA. Tom called the police. Officer Martinez arrived. Under questioning, the guy immediately gave up Brenda's name and admitted she paid him $200 cash. But Jake, the nuclear bomb dropped this morning. The state attorney general executed a search warrant on Brenda's house at 6 a.m. with news cameras rolling. Channel 7 was there. Brenda in her bathrobe screaming about property rights while they carried out boxes. Brad getting arrested at city planning. They found everything. Computer files showing the scheme, bank records proving she'd been moving HOA funds through personal accounts, even a spreadsheet listing target homeowners with notes about pressure points. Mrs. Chen's name had notes about elderly widow vulnerable to safety concerns. Tom's mentioned working-class Hispanic likely to avoid confrontation. Mine, single father, electrician, corner lot, high development potential, financial pressure through daughter's needs. They arrested 4 other HOA board members across the county. This was organized crime using HOAs as cover. Dozens of neighborhoods, hundreds of manipulated sales, millions in fraudulent transactions spanning 5 years. Derek called. "The Attorney General wants to interview you when you get back, as a witness, not a suspect. You're the victim who exposed a federal conspiracy. Oh, and Brenda called you 17 times yesterday. The voicemails are something special. 17 times. Started demanding, moved to pleading, ended with sobbing breakdown. She was begging me not to press charges, offering to drop all claims, even promising to buy my house above market value to make this all go away." Day 14, homecoming. Emma and I drove back to find our street transformed. 3 news vans. Neighbors in clusters. My house with police tape around Brenda's abandoned BMW. Daddy, why are there so many people? Because sometimes when you stand up to bullies, other people pay attention. Tom met us with a grin and a thick folder. Welcome home, brother. The documentation was beautiful. 17 attempts at breaking in, 3 police reports, 1 arrest, enough security footage for a Netflix documentary. Detective Sarah Rodriguez arrived. Mr. Morrison, your documentation resulted in charges against 14 individuals across 6 counties. Largest HOA fraud case in state history. The investigation had expanded. The scheme involved city planners, real estate agents, mortgage brokers and HOA board members working together to systematically defraud homeowners. Your garage situation was small potatoes, but it was the thread that unraveled everything. At 5 p.m., neighbors gathered for a community accountability meeting. The cafeteria was packed with 47 families and local media. Derek arrived with updates. Brenda's license permanently revoked. Brad terminated from city planning and banned from municipal employment. Their house in foreclosure. Both facing federal fraud charges with potential 20-year sentences. But the civil settlement includes funding for a community legal defense fund. Any homeowner facing HOA harassment can get free legal consultation. The applause was thunderous. Mrs. Chin stood up with tears, holding her late husband's photo. My Henry would have loved seeing democracy work right here. Tom took the microphone. What Jake did wasn't just stand up for himself. He stood up for all of us. But the real moment came when they played Brenda's voicemails. 17 messages. Starting with demands, escalating to threats, moving to bargaining, ending with complete breakdown. Please, Jake, I'm begging you. Just don't let them take everything. Her final message at 3 a.m. I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted to control something. Everything's falling apart and I thought if I could just make the neighborhood perfect, maybe Brad would stop drinking and we could save our marriage. The raw desperation was almost tragic. Almost. Channel 7 asked for a final comment. With 47 neighbors watching, cameras rolling and Emma building block towers in the back, I said, all I wanted was to use my own garage. Turns out defending small things leads to protecting big things, like the right to exist in your own neighborhood without someone else's permission. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. 6 months later, Emma's treehouse was finished. We built it exactly 18 inches past where Brenda had claimed my property line ended. Emma hung upside down from her rope ladder. First rule, no mean people allowed. Second, everyone shares snacks. Third, if you're mean to someone's daddy, you can't come up here ever. The civil lawsuit settlement, $12,000 plus legal fees. I didn't keep it. Instead, I established the Willowbrook Property Rights Defense Fund. Any homeowner facing HOA harassment could get free legal consultation. The fund helped 3 families in the first month. Mrs. Chin became a neighborhood celebrity. Her documentation methods were so thorough that 2 other counties asked her to train residents. Tom got elected to the new HOA board on a platform of transparency. First order, posting all financial records online. Second, board members couldn't profit from their positions. Property values increased 8% since the corruption was exposed. Turns out people pay premium prices for neighborhoods without arbitrary harassment. Brenda and Brad both pled guilty to federal fraud. She got 18 months minimum security. He got 2 years and permanent ban from government employment. Their house sold at auction for 60% of previous value. Karma is very expensive. But here's what I want you to remember. This started with one woman parking in one man's garage without permission. It ended with federal investigations, criminal convictions, and protection for hundreds of families. Sometimes the biggest changes start with defending the smallest spaces. Share your HOA nightmare story in the comments. Subscribe because next week I'm telling you about the city inspector who tried to condemn someone's house for having too many books, and how one librarian fought back. Because bullies only win when good people stay quiet.